Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives, and today we're going to be discussing episodes 15 and 16 of Steven Universe, Onion Trade, and Steven the Sword Fighter. And as always, let's talk about the odd-numbered episode first. In the case of Onion Trade, Steven is looking for one of his toys, a character called Ranger Guy from a series of toys called, well, Guys, which is an acronym for Guys Under Your Supervision. And they come in a wide variety of characters and specialities, and Steven thinks that Ranger Guy is the best, especially since his version has a discolored hat. So it's kind of one of a kind. Unfortunately, and as such, yeah, the fact that he's lost it, it's kind of hitting him. It's kind of getting to him a little. As such, he begins searching for him, but can't seem to find him. And part of the reason why he's so concerned is because it holds sentimental value for him, because his dad got it for him when he and Steven went out to the Funland Wharf a year ago, and his dad bought all the guys for him. As such, Steven goes to his dad to try and break the news to him, but his dad really does not remember it that much. However, it is still something sentimental to Steven, so he gives him a bag of quarters on the off chance, well, maybe he can get some new ones. So he goes to the Funland Arcade and tries to keep winning Ranger Guy, because there's a machine that dispenses them, but he instead keeps getting a character called Dave Guy, which is supposedly the lamest one of all. As such, Steven ends up buying all the guys in the machine, which are apparently all Dave guys, which, yeah, that's kind of douchey for whoever did that. And so, with this bag of Dave guys, he's wondering what he's going to do until he spots Onion. And it turns out he's got a Ranger Guy in his back pocket. As such, Steven follows Onion around, and we kind of see a bit more of Onion's day-to-day life, which is just as weird as the kid itself. I'll get to that when I talk about my thoughts on this episode. But needless to say, Steven does briefly see Onion meet up with his dad, a fisher by the name of Yellowtail. They don't reveal his name in this episode, but it is revealed later on. But apparently because of his work, Yellowtail only sees Onion every once in a while, so it's a very brief interaction before he leaves again. As such, with the interaction done, Steven does go to Onion and tries to barter with him for the Ranger Guy, but he doesn't have enough Dave guys to make it a worthy trade in Onion's eyes. As such, Steven kind of leaves with no Ranger Guy and still like 30 Dave guys. And so he goes back to the temple wondering what to do, and Amethyst offers a solution. You see, she has come into her possession a wand called a replicator wand, which is something that was in her room that belonged to Pearl. As such, she lets Steven have it because Pearl was getting on Amethyst's case earlier, and she thinks, why not? And so, with the replicator wand, Steven starts replicating Dave guys to give to Onion. However, once Onion sees the replicator wand, he instead wants to trade for it instead. And so Steven, wanting his Ranger Guy, ends up making the trade anyway, but he finds that it feels kind of hollow when he just has Ranger Guy by himself. Unfortunately, though, he doesn't really have much time to think about this, as we soon see why Onion wanted the replicator wand. To cause mass chaos. He just begins causing like a tidal wave of Dave guys to start encompassing Beach City. And as such, Steven and the Gems go in to try and stop him, but it's clear he's already begun mastering the wand, as he's found out how he can use it to not only replicate guys but other objects. As when the Gems get closer, he actually replicates a car and starts launching it at them one by one. Yeah, the kid's nuts. Thankfully, Steven is able to get close enough to tackle Onion and stop him replicating stuff, and he tries to trade the Ranger Guy back, only to find that the Ranger Guy he traded for was Steven's all along. Onion stole it. As such, with this knowledge in mind, Steven says their trade didn't count. He takes the wand back, and Garnet, not wanting to clean this mess up, just smashes it, which causes everything the wand replicated to disappear, much to Amethyst's chagrin, because she used it to fill Pearl's room with garbage. However, Steven, for whatever reason, decides, well, you probably stole it because you feel lonely, because your dad's never home, so here, I'll give it to you. I'll give Ranger Guy to you. So he gives Ranger Guy back, and the Gems just kind of go on their way, and Steven says and when Greg goes up to Steven and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you lost that," and Steven's like, "Oh, it's fine, it was just the memories, but now I have new memories, traumatizing memories," and the episode just ends with them walking away. So, yeah, that's a thing, but That's one episode. Let's talk about Steven the Sword Fighter. This one's a bit more lore. This one also introduces, once again, more lore. In this case, Steven is sitting down with the Gems to watch a movie called Lonely Blade, a Japanese samurai movie series about a titular samurai called Lonely Blade, who just kind of travels all by his lonesome and fights any opponents that get in his way. Steven thinks that the movie they're watching is fan-friggin-tastic. It's awesome, but Pearl, being Pearl, keeps nitpicking it, especially considering Lonely Blade's techniques, as his signature technique is something called a boomerang blade, where he takes his two samurai swords, sticks them together, and throws it like a boomerang at his opponent, which Pearl thinks is just a stupid method all around. However, she mentions how if Steven wants to ever see a real sword fighting technique, if Steven ever wants to see real sword fighting techniques, then all he has to do is ask her and she'll gladly show him, and Steven immediately takes her up on the offer. As such, the group teleports to, I'm just going to call it a sky arena, or at least the ruins of a sky arena. And so from her, Pearl, she creates a holographic copy of herself that's just obviously a program, as its sole purpose is to be an opponent to fight in a sword fight. And with it, Pearl fights, and she actually does a rather impressive job, which actually gets Steven, interested. And once Pearl bests her holographic doppelganger, Steven wants to learn more. He actually asks Pearl, "Hey, can you teach me how to sword fight?" And Pearl is glad to show him. However, while she's trying to teach Steven the basics with the hologram, Steven, it being a 13-year-old kid, starts getting bored very quickly and asks, "Hey, can you just show me more advanced stuff, like the boomerang blade?" Pearl keeps trying to convince Steven, no, that thing's not a real technique, but Steven just keeps pushing, and so Pearl, getting annoyed, is briefly distracted from her sword fight as she tells Steven, look, it's not about flashy techniques, it's about looking for the perfect moment, and then before she finishes, the hologram manages to stab her right through the back while Steven watches. As such, Steven is justifiably horrified by this, and Pearl, while clearly being in pain, her only reaction is like, "Oh, whoopsie!" And as Steven it looks like he's about to break down, Pearl's like, "No, Steven, it's fine, everything's gonna be..." And then she poofs, disappears. And all that's left is her gemstone, with the hologram stating that it has won the duel. Steven is, of course, holds Pearl in his hand, and it's just looks like he's doing his best to hold back tears, but Garnet and Amethyst come up to Steven and tell him, no, it's fine. Because it turns out that this is a thing that gems can sometimes happen to gems. So remember back in with so many birthdays when the gems mentioned how their bodies are immortal, how they can still be hurt, but otherwise they don't age? Well, when a gem is hurt, they essentially they regenerate. Kind of like Doctor Who, except without the complete makeover and changing the personality. Essentially, if their physical forms are damaged so much that it looks like that they could cause them death, they end up disappearing and retreating into their gems to regenerate. After a while, they'll reemerge from their gems, good as new, and aside from maybe a few aesthetic differences, they'll essentially be the same person. As such, Garnet and Amethyst reassure Steven that Pearl will be fine. It's just gonna take her a while to come back. Steven thinks, oh, what'll it be like? A few minutes? Whatever? The episode then cuts ahead to 2 weeks later, and Steven is still waiting for Pearl to regenerate. And in that time, he's kind of made his house a wreck, and unfortunately, the hologram Pearl has not left. Steven, getting impatient for Pearl to come back, decides, well, maybe if Pearl won't come back, maybe the hologram will be the next best thing. I mean, she looks like Pearl, she comes from Pearl, maybe it'll work out. No, it doesn't. The hologram Pearl is still only programmed to fight. And so while Steven tries taking it out on leisure activities that the normal Pearl would enjoy, like, say, organizing his stuff, making fun of Amethyst, or just going to Pearl's favorite cherry blossom tree, it just keeps going. Nothing goes right. In fact, that she even the Hollow Pearl even pushes it further by cutting down the cherry blossom tree when Steven says offhandedly to her, "Don't hold back." Oh yeah, and Amethyst eats a cloud. That's a thing. As such, Steven finally does get sick of her and tries to abandon her, but unfortunately the hollow pearl is kind of stuck to him, as no matter where he goes, it just pops up and still wants to engage Steven in battle, whereas Steven is just trying to constantly tell it to get lost. Finally, Steven ends up... Finally, as Steven tries to sit down to watch another Lonely Blade movie with Pearl, I mean the Pearl's Pearl, whatever. Finally, the hologram manages to get Steven so agitated that he just starts throwing things at it, and one of them manages to hit her in the head, which he considers a victory. Unfortunately, the victory count means that she's going to move into advanced mode, and so she starts actually taking the fight seriously and tries to keep skewering Steven with advanced techniques that the kid can't hope to match. As such, Steven is now just running for his life around his house while the hologram keeps trying to keep skewering him, and eventually it ends up cornering him in the kitchen with Steven's only weapon being a broom or mop. But as Steven is kind of lamenting to himself and mulling over what Pearl said, the hologram raises her sword into the air, and Steven realizes it's the perfect moment, and he uses the mop to pretty much do an impromptu boomerang blade to defeat the hologram. And with its defeat, the program ends. It asks if Steven wants to fight again. Steven says hell no, and immediately uses the broom to just dispel the hologram until it's finally just gone. As such, Amethyst and Garnet come in, with Amethyst floating in because of the aforementioned cloud. But Steven says that maybe he shouldn't be impatient, that maybe he should just wait for Pearl to come back when her time is right, only for Pearl's Pearl to start glowing, and from it we see a physical shape form until, yep, Pearl is back, good as new. And yeah, well, this is something else that comes with regeneration. Like I said, there are a few aesthetic differences. While Pearl's own body remains the same, her outfit is changed. And this happens with other gems who regenerate as well. This one, and I have to say, her second outfit, the one that she wears for the majority of the series after this, I think I like it better than her first one. Her first one was just kind of like a ballerina outfit, which looks fine, but kind of feels a little weird when she's kind of in more social interactions. But this one, I feel like the second outfit actually is like a ballerina dress, but it has a sash around the waist. You can see the tights underneath. It has the same elegance that the original ballerina outfit had, but it looks more regal and ready for battle and something you could wear in more social situations. So you know what? I think it's an improvement over her original outfit. So I like it. As such, with Pearl returning, Steven gives her a hug. She laments, she sees the mess that everything is, and Steven ends the episode by tying his shirt around his head, banging a wooden spoon against the pot, and yelling Pearl's back over and over. So, yeah, that's the thing. So, first, my thoughts on Onion Trade. It's a fun episode. Definitely kind of in a similar vein of filler as other episodes, but this one has the added benefit of having the focus be on Onion. And I'm just going to say this right now. Onion is fucking insane. I'm not even kidding. The character of Onion is such an enigma in the universe of Steven Universe. Like, this kid... let's just say this. When they were handing out logic, he was on break. Because this kid follows no rules. He does whatever he wants and kind of has no rhyme or reason to it. He just kind of does his own thing no matter where he goes. And this episode kind of further exemplifies that, as when Steven is following him, the first thing he does is that he, I think, gets a bag of chips, goes to a suitcase store and uses the bag of chips to barter for a guy's lunch. And then when Onion goes to the docks to wait for his dad rather than eat the lunch, he just starts throwing pieces of it out to sea for his own amusement. And later on, Onion actually takes the ketchup packets from the lunch, throws them across the docks, and then just speeds all over them using a Segway. The kid just kind of has no rhyme or reason, and he might be effing insane too. Like I said in the plot summary for the episode, he not only steals Steven's ranger guy because, well, he could, but also when Steven starts bartering back, what does Onion do? He wants Steven to trade him the replicator wand, not because it looks cool, but because he wants to cause mass chaos. The kid is kinda nuts, And I think this episode is a good way of introducing that. While Onion definitely had some weird oddities to him in previous episodes, like when he didn't talk when Steven and Connie needed his help to pop the bubble, or when or in a previous or in the So Many Birthdays episode where while Steven was mulling around he saw Onion in the arcade, and first while Steven was lamenting about how he's so innocent, in reality Onion was actually ripping over the machine to get access to either the tickets or the quarters inside. It's just like, this kid, he's an enigma. You don't really know what goes on in his head, and the more you learn about him, the less you want to know, is what I'm saying. And this episode is a great way of showcasing it, because he steals a wand and just uses it for mass chaos, which in a way I think is amusing, because it's just weird to see him just have this wand and decide, I'm just gonna go nuts with this. And seeing him actually use it competently, actively use it to stall the gems from stopping him, actually causing physical harm by trying to shoot them with cars. This kid is not well. This kid is not well, and he operates on his own agenda. The laws of physics for him are suggestions, and as a result, and the whole episode is just essentially Steven trying to get to him, trying to understand him on his level so that he can communicate with him and barter with him, only for Onion to pretty much say, I reject your reality and substitute my own. Now, ultimately, things do kind of crash down, but Steven learns that the ranger guy that he traded was his all along. So it's clear that he's still a kid. He still kind of has to pay the consequences for his actions from time to time, and he is just clearly doing his own thing because he can. But underneath that childlike, let's call it innocence, there is clearly a criminal mastermind at play, and while it does make you calmer around him, it also makes you more weary to be in the same room with him, is what I'm saying. And so kind of seeing him unleashing this mass chaos in this episode, because for the simple reason of he needed something to entertain himself, yeah, the kid's nuts. And throughout the whole series, there's that sense of unease is always there, while also just kind of making you wonder, what is this kid's deal? But like I said, the more you learn about him, the less you want to know the answer. So I like that, and the episode does well in showcasing it. Has some nice moments, some nice comedy here and there. The emotional moments I feel aren't as strong as they should be, especially when Steven wants to barter for the guys and says, "Oh, it's sentimentality because me and my dad got it." But or even by the ending when he gives Onion the ranger guy anyway. Like, I don't think the kid deserves a reward after all the crap he's pulled. Even if he did do it because he missed his dad and wanted something to do. No. Do not give this kid a reward. Do not give him a reward. The kid's nuts. But so I'll give it that, but I'll probably knock it for that, as the emotional moments don't feel well earned. But at the same time, it has some amusing moments, especially with Amethyst, especially with the replicator wand, Steven losing his shit over the Dave guy thing. Oh, and ultimately how everything just kind of went nuts with Onion having access to the replicator wand. So overall, still a fine episode, very fun, very WTF-y, but overall still enjoyable. But then of course, let's get to Steven the Sword Fighter. Once again, this one is another episode that introduces lore to the episode, and it's again interesting lore. Something that I don't think they state this fully in the episode until like a later one. But one of the things that I like about this is that it also showcases more into a gem's physiology, because in this case, you learn that when a gem, like in this case, you learn what happens if a gem gets hurt. While a gem's form is relatively consistent, they did mention before how, sorry, puppy's under it there. They did mention before how if a gem can still be hurt, but so it kind of makes you wonder how it exactly works and their forms are as unchanging as they are. And so this episode kind of gives a nice little show to that, as we see Pearl actually getting hurt and having to regenerate. It's a nice little bit as the lore, especially as you learn that a gem essentially, that even if a gem can be quote unquote killed, there's still a way for them to come back. So I do like that and seeing how it goes. But one thing that I also think works with this episode is, again, the trauma. In this episode, how Steven learns about this advantage with the gems is because of him being a stupid kid. And I'm not knocking him for being a stupid kid, because, well, kids can be dumb. But Well, considering that him being excited, wanting to see the more flashy stuff, and distracting Pearl is what causes her to get poofed. Not only does that guilt kind of get to him, but again, he watched Pearl get stabbed through the chest. Name me one person on this planet who wouldn't get traumatized by something like that, and I'll show you a crazy person. It's clear that Steven, it's just a very traumatizing moment. And while for the rest of the episode we see Steven trying to deal with it in his own way, in some regard, it feels like he's also in mourning for Pearl. Like, he wants her desperately to come back. He's caring for her gem, asking her to come back. In some ways, it does feel like he's going through the stages of grief. Like, with sadness, bartering, anger, and ultimately acceptance. It does feel like he's going through grief, and he's trying to substitute, and his attempts to try and substitute Pearl for Hollow Pearl does showcase kind of how he's kind of dealing with everything, how it's manifesting with him. And it's a good way of showcasing the emotion that Steven is going through and how it's affecting him personally, especially by the end of the episode when he finally has enough of Hollow Pearl. He's still talking to Pearl and trying to, and just kind of having to deal with the consequences of his actions. But at the same time, it does showcase that Steven, throughout all this, still paid attention to what Pearl was saying, as when the Hollow Pearl does turn hostile, he didn't remember that one of Pearl's last words were to wait for the perfect moment and strike. So Steven took that to heart and used it to defeat the Hollow Pearl. So it works well in not only establishing more gem lore, but also showcasing more of Steven's growth this is kind of where Steven has to deal with some of the harsher realities. While we saw him dealing with trauma in previous episodes with the Frybo and Catfingers episode, this one actually has someone he cares about almost be killed. And again, like I said, as we see Steven trying to deal with this thought, it kind of allows him to mature a little. Not a lot, because by the end of the episode, he's still a kid and still having fun, which is showcased by when Pearl comes back. He wraps his shirt around his head and starts knocking a spoon on a pot, declaring she's back. But throughout the episode, you see Steven trying to internalize everything, process the grief, process how everything works, process everything going together. And it works really well and showcases Steven is actually maturing a little, that he does care, and for the first time he kind of has to deal with some of the harsher realities of what the gems have to deal with. As again, during just a simple demonstration, Pearl got stabbed in the friggin' chest and almost and technically died, and like I said, Steven watched her, so he had to deal with that. And so throughout the whole episode, while Steven does try to recapture what he and Pearl had, he has to slowly come to terms with the fact that she's not there anymore. That he's by himself. And while he does know that she will eventually return, and when she does return, he's happy and content, again, throughout the whole episode, we see him having to process it. Process dealing with Pearl not being there anymore, and how he kind of has to live his life through it because of it. I like that. It's a nice little thing that showcases more of Steven's growth. Not only doing well and showcasing more of the gems and how they are, and what their deal is, but also how Steven kind of has to deal with it, comes to terms with it, and how it ultimately affects him as a person. So I like that. I really do like that. On top of that, we still got the antics with the Hollow Pearl and how it's genuinely creepy just seeing this thing walking around. At one point, Amethyst and Garnet tell Steven to stop hanging out with it because it was creepy, or seeing it not understanding anything, and even push Steven so far that he finally ends up fighting it. So that's actually interesting, and the climax is still intense. So overall, I do think it's a good episode. Has some great character growth for Steven as we see him kind of processing the stuff with Pearl. We got some good gem lore as we learn more about how the gem's physiology operates. And of course, there's still some of the humor, especially with Amethyst eating a cloud from the Sky Arena and floating away. So that was fun. Plus, again, Hollow Pearl's antics. So overall, Both good episodes. Onion Trade is another filler, but it's definitely a batshit and crazy one, especially with Onion and how in his antics. And Steven the Sword Fighter does a good, like I said, does a good job in setting up lore, having more character growth with Steven, and still having some funny antics in there to keep you entertained. So overall, both are good episodes. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and see you next week where we look at episodes 17 and 18. So till then, I hope you have a good night and take care. Bye bye.